What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our SEC football channel.
Time to talk some Rocky Top. We got Nathaniel Rutherford on the line from Rocky Top Insider talking Tennessee football. Nathaniel, how you doing today?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We aim to deliver top-notch discussion, debate, and analysis, and I believe you're going to help us out considerably when it comes to the Vols. Let's start with the just the overview of the program in regards to one season down under Jeremy Pruitt. To me, obviously, the Auburn effort was significant in looking at the football team play that game, a Kentucky team that finished in the top 10 in the nation, being able to pull off that upset. And decidedly, the downer would have been maybe the play down the stretch in which they had hopes of getting to postseason play, but weren't able to pull it off and were drubbed by the likes of Mizzou and Vandy.
I think that's a fair assessment. I think, like you said, the wins over Auburn and Kentucky were encouraging signs, and even that effort against Georgia where they got back to within, I think, a single score, if I remember correctly, or 12 points, whatever it was, in the late in that game, and then Georgia, ran away with it, and they just played big boy football in a sense there. But I think what I attribute those last two games to more than anything was just Tennessee being spent. I mean, you look at some of the injuries on offensive line at that point, Tennessee, the offensive line was just horrendous down the stretch last year for Tennessee. And it wasn't, I'm not trying to blame the players or anything like that, because I think a lot of it was to do with injuries, and you were playing a lot of guys you weren't planning on playing in the beginning of the season at that point. And Garantano was banged up, and he'd been dealt several different injuries and was playing through pain. You could tell in the Vanderbilt game especially he was playing through injuries. So I think while the season ended on a down note with those two blowout losses to teams that Tennessee, football fans don't like Tennessee to lose to in football, I do think overall last season there were signs that, okay, there's things here that you can build off of. And I think Pruitt did a great job this offseason of addressing some of those needs and, getting, I think, upgrades in the coaching staff as well.
Nathaniel, just to take in a Jeremy Pruitt news conference or hear him interviewed or talk about the program versus Butch Jones seems to be night and day. We seem to be getting a nuts and bolts football guy who doesn't want to sell anything, but basically just let us know, hey, this is the truth about the team. I don't want to give you too much. I'm running a football program. I'm running a football team versus kind of a salesman approach. And that seems to be on the surface the difference between the two.
No, that's very accurate. I think that's very accurate. The two are very, very – I don't know if you could actually have two people at Tennessee who have just as polar opposites of a kind of a attitude, a way they approach coaching, a way they approach marketing and stuff. Then you have Butch Jones and Jeremy Pruitt. And not to say that Pruitt is some, hermit who doesn't go out and do this sort of stuff. He's gotten better, I think, over the last 4 or 5 months of realizing the responsibilities of a head coach go beyond just football. And I think he's that's why I think the hire of Jim Chaney was big, because he got someone who can be kind of a head coach of the offense and do stuff for him there. But I think when it comes to the way they manage practices, the way they manage the program, Pruitt is, in my opinion, from people who are just football purists, and in that regard, he's kind of a breath of fresh air compared to Butch Jones. And we'll see, obviously, if it works out in Tennessee, what he can do and what his style does for Tennessee. But I think overall, if you had to choose one way or the other, I think most people who have played football or have watched football for decades or years or whatever, they're going to choose what Pruitt does over what Butch Jones has done.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We discuss, debate, and analyze every day. We have moved to the SEC in Tennessee. We've got Nathaniel Rutherford on the line from Rocky Top Insider. Nathaniel, I have to admit to you, when Tennessee's got a decent team, which, again, they've been down for the last 10 or 12 years, but they've been decent, and especially those 2 9-win seasons under Butch Jones, I'm watching 6 or 7 games because I'm trying to watch everyone. When it goes south like it did last year at 5-7, sure, I saw West Virginia while it was competitive. I really wanted to see the Florida game. It got out of hand like 21-28, nothing quick. Didn't see a whole lot of that game. So my Tennessee viewing goes down the tube. So I didn't see a whole lot of Tennessee football last year. If you don't have an offensive line in play in the SEC with the speed at edge rusher and elsewhere, you're going to have some issues. And that has been an issue for Tennessee. What does the position battle look like this spring?
Yeah, right now the offensive line is getting an infusion of youth to the extent that this spring you have Wayne Morris, who is a former high 4-star, 5-star offensive lineman out of Grayson, high school in Georgia. He is competing for a starting spot as a true freshman, and there's a very good chance, in my opinion, he will start for Tennessee at one of the tackle spots, maybe even guard, but I think right now mostly you're looking at him as a tackle guy. You also have Chris Akporogane, who used to be in Tennessee, who went down to IMG Academy in Florida, and he's an early enrollee. He hasn't participated a whole lot because he dealt with a minor injury before the spring started. But those are two of the young guys, and right now you're going to welcome in Darnell Wright, who's a 5-star offensive tackle over the summer, and he'll be with the team in the fall. Those are two of the younger guys that I look at that are probably in line to get playing time. You have Brandon Kennedy returning after last season, who he played in one game and then had a season-ending injury the week after the West Virginia game. So he was a grad transfer from Alabama who had the rare grad transfer who has 2 years of eligibility. So he'll be back this season for Tennessee, and hopefully we'll be starting at center for them. Then you have, Drew Richmond is going to transfer out. He's still looking for his destination right now, but you have other guys in there, whether it's rising sophomore Jerome Carvin, Ryan Johnson, who filled in for Kennedy at center last year, who was better at guard, in my opinion. Jameer Johnson, who is a former junior college guy who played for Tennessee last year and started most of their games. Marcus Tatum at tackle. I think it's going to be very interesting to me to see how many of these young guys earn starting roles and how much they play during the season. Because I think, looking at last year, I think a lot of these guys have shown improvement in their bodies and how much weight they put on and some of their strength and stuff they've shown so far in the spring. But I still think these younger guys like William Morris and Darnell Wright are going to be upgrades over what Tennessee had last year.